we're going to go into the next portion of the hurdle run. We've gotten our start. We've gotten our lead up to the hurdle. And now that we've established a hurdle rhythm, I want to take a look at some young women running, and I've got some men running some hurdling, so you can see the various similarities between the two. But remember, if you're a man and you are a hurdler, do not coach the women the way you were coached. Do not coach your women as high hurdlers. They are sprint hurdlers. The barrier is lower. The women can straddle the barrier. So therefore, they're not concerned about getting their hips up, over, and down. They're more concerned about getting their hips up, through, and down. Not over, through. So this is an elongated hurdle stride. It's the same way with the men, but even more with even more quickness as they go. So we're looking here. We've got Miss Perry here, and we've got the young lady whose name escapes me now from USC. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and we're going to frame through. And as you can see, we've got a difference here. And take off, Jenny Powell just popped into my head, that you can both see that both of these young women are driving their knee up, but once they get that knee to a parallel position, you must continue to push off the ground and drive your knee up. Unfortunately, Jenny stops her knee. It looks like they're about the same height, but watch what happens. See, Michelle's knee continues to drive as her foot starts to extend, but then Jenny starts to swing the leg, and you see she goes to a straight leg lead. Perry, because she continues to lift the knee, goes into a bent knee position. Have your hurdlers stand and lift their knee as high as their navel. Lift that knee as high as possible and have them hold or support their leg with their hamstrings. Put their hands under the hamstring and hold the leg up as high as you can. Have them extend their foot. You will find that they will extend their foot to a bent knee position. The lower the leg is, they will find that they can stretch the leg until it's straight. So, if your hurdler stops the knee lift, in other words, if they stop pushing off the ground, the knee lift will stop. If they stop knee lifting, they will stop pushing off the ground. These things are synonymous and they work very well together. So now, as these hurdlers come off the hurdle, and you see that nice touchdown, they've got their knees up nice and high, and as they start to run into their trail step, this is a critical teaching point right here. The shin bone of the trail leg should be perpendicular to the track. You do not want the foot to cast or swing away. If it does, they're going to step out, and there's going to be braking that's going to cost them their speed. The young hurdler that steps out is going to lose speed, and they're going to be given the impression that they're not fast enough to get to the hurdle. When in actuality, they're plenty fast enough to get to the next hurdle, but they keep putting on the brakes with that trail step. That trail step, that lead trail step, that is a very critical 1-2 punch when they come off the hurdle and 1-2 punch as they go into the hurdle. And as you can see, both young ladies have gotten a nice perpendicular shin into the track. This young lady here has already allowed her foot to swing past the knee. Let's swing this back a little bit. And you can see that both Jenny Powell and Michelle Perry, Michelle's got her foot swinging out a little bit. Perry has her foot completely up and down, perpendicular to the track. But you notice that they squeeze the thighs together. And they're able to get onto the ground. A nice shuffle. We're talking about that flat parallel shin. A little bit high going into the next step. And look how they just put their feet down. Here's the difference between what Perry does and what Jenny Powell does. Let's go back. High. Look at how that thigh goes really high. She almost slams the top of her thigh right into her navel. See how this angle closes? Look at how there's a little bit more pronounced angle here between Jenny Powell's thigh and her chest, which means that she stopped her thigh, she's blocked it, and when you block a hinge, the lower end of the free side of the hinge is going to kick out. It's going to slam the foot or swing that foot out. But by lifting that thigh as high as possible As soon as the foot starts to leave the body and move away from the body, the hamstring gets initiated. With the leg this high, the hamstring doesn't get initiated, and you can swing the foot out. Now, because she's into a straight leg lead, her foot is going to stay in the air over the hurdle a frame or two longer, whereas Perry is going to start to work the ground immediately. Even though it looks as if Jenny Powell is catching up, she was behind. Perry lands almost completely vertical. Jenny Powell lands, and look at the pronounced bend in her knee. That is something she's going to have to recover from. Michelle Perry is much taller in her contact. These are very nice positions. And they push down into the ground. So we want to see that knee to knee in full support. But look what happens here. See that little bit of a gap? That's a frame. Notice now, Jenny Powell is behind. Because look at, once Jenny Powell reached knee to knee, Michelle Perry was already knee past. Let's go back and look at that again. Contact, knee to knee. Contact. You can see between the knees. You can see that gap. And that's why she's able to get away, and now Powell is starting to come with a heel. She can feel the race starting to get away from her, and now she's going to start to press a little bit here. As they both come to the ground, you don't see them kicking out. You don't see that foot reaching away from the body. That foot is going directly into the ground, and notice the position. Perry has been able to pull that leg underneath into full support. Jenny Powell is a little late by allowing that extension. See, she's leading with her heel. We even have a little heel lead here. But at full support, knee to knee, full support. And if you notice, the gap here between the knees was a little bit bigger than back here. These things get bigger and bigger. They're like quicksand. And now you can already start to see the separation in the race start to occur. Here comes Michelle Perry's trail leg down into the ground. Jenny Powell brings that trail. A little bit of a gap, but she's trying to make some headway. But still, Michelle Perry's knee is ahead of her when she gets to full support. So again, we want to be able to see some movement here where we're putting the foot down into the track. Now, let's take another look here at another hurdler. And we're going to watch a little girl right here. Here she comes off her hurdle, and we're going to get past this person, and you can already see some of the mechanical issues that we were talking about that we saw with the elite athletes that we're not going to see with the less skilled. Look at this girl here, how she puts her foot out. Remember we talked about the extension. There's a big extension here. She's heeling the ground. Remember, we wanted that shin perpendicular to the track as you came into the takeoff. We're going to be more concerned now with this young lady that's going over the hurdle. She's got a nice high arm here. She's going through her lead leg mechanics. She lands with a little bit of a collapse here. This is an issue that we have to take into consideration because the reason why she's crashing here is because she's too close to the hurdle here. So her takeoff, and there's that long reach. She's cutting a nice flat shin bone. And right here, if she would have swung her right hand down, her left hand down vigorously, because remember, the hands trigger the legs. If she had cut this left hand down into the ground, she's in perpendicular shin here. That foot would have gone down into the hurdle. She would have protected the integrity of her takeoff distance. However, watch her left hand. Stay up, stay up, stay up. Now her left hand starts, and she is literally on her heel. She could not avoid the swing And look at that long swing there. Heel on the ground, flat, and she just sort of fades away from the hurdle. Look at that big heel. So now she must project up, so she floats the hurdle, and then when she lands, she's not landing with an aggressive lead leg, she's landing with a pogo stick. That's very mushy. But watch what happens with her trail. Immediately, she's in perfect position here. Got a nice perpendicular shin almost, but then she just lets it wheel out. This is what hurts your hurdler right here. Notice her left arm. Watch her left arm. Up, 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 up. Her left arm hasn't even started to come down yet. If she had cut her left arm down toward the ground, at this point, she'd have blasted away. She would have gotten a big pop out of that trail leg. But then she swings and she decelerates. Again, see the bush in the leg, because she's just crashing to the ground. Here comes another long reach. And then she quickens, and that's not bad. She's forced to because she's got a long step going into the hurdle. Nice high lead knee. You see that her leg is bent as she goes over, but she's a little close, so she's floating the hurdle. And as she lands, here comes the reach again. There's another reach. She's a little close. And you can already tell that she's in trouble, because now when she lands, her foot is in front of her hips. And remember, like I said at the beginning of this whole program, you can't do any pushing until your foot gets directly beneath or slightly behind your hips. So now she's stuck, and there goes the swing. See how her shin bone is being thrown away from her body. It's being casted or kicked away. You can already tell, even though her lower body is being obscured by this performance indicator, you can see her arm swing, and you know she's overstriding. You can tell here. This is an acceleration mechanic here. When you can see your hands, remember, you see your hands in acceleration, and you don't see your hands in between the hurdles. And here comes the cut. And see, she's still swinging that leg out. She leads with her heel. Goes flat. Huge gap between the knees. So now she must jump up over the hurdle instead of toward the hurdle. And again, as soon as she hits the ground, there's no effort. See how the arm continued to swing up? If this left hand had cut down here, her shin bone would have went straight into the ground. She would have got a little bounce toward the next hurdle. Look at that swing. Deceleration, big gap between the knees. Look at that long stride. And again, a heeling of the ground, very flat. And then she knows that she's getting close, so she sort of puts her foot down, but she's in full support, and she's got her knee in this position. This is what you have to get your young hurdler to do. You've got to get your young hurdler not to open. Let's take a look back here. Look at our hurdler here. As she comes off the hurdle, she's got a nice forward body lean. But look at that. Again, the arm is up. And it doesn't start to pull that foot into the ground. So she's in full support. Big gap between the knees. We need to be able to set a situation up that allows our hurdlers to be put in the proper positions so they can hurdle. Your kids are plenty fast enough. But bad mechanics take away speed. And this is what we have to apply ourselves to. And in the next video clip, we're going to look at what the men should do in between the hurdles.